Welcome to
theories
of the third kind.
Welcome. First off, I want to say thank you to whomever you are listening or watching for opening your minds to receive extra knowledge nuggets each week. It means a lot to all of us, and we want you to know that. Also, since you are a premium subscriber, remember that you get priority in topic suggestions.
So feel free to shoot those suggestions on over to us by email, or you can write us a handwritten letter, send that to our P.O. box, which you already know where to get that information at. We say it every week. You know, at this point, it's just like, you probably fast forward past this part. I just burped, by the way. And again, it's a sugar-free Red Bull. And Dan's eyes are red, and mine are too. And tell him how many hours of sleep we've gotten, Dan.
Not even hours.
Not even an hour. We're running on fumes, baby. A lot of work this week, but it's okay because we're coming right at you and all over you. And we hope you enjoy this episode today. And if you don't, then you can just cut my life into pieces. Or what is it? Cut my wrist and black my eyes.
Black my eyes and cut my wrist. It's not a phase, Dad.
It's a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So in case you can't see anything or you can't read, today's episode is over the 2012 Emo Killings in Iraq. I'm just going to say Iraq. I mean, it's Texas way. All right. So how today's episode will go is that we will discuss what emo is, in case you don't know. And then we'll go into the killings. But before that, we're going to talk a little bit about how emo was in Iraq, right?
Yeah, it kind of was like introduced into Iraq.
Yeah, over there. And then how many people were supposedly murdered in total. And then we'll hop into strange facts and findings. And then the theories surrounding all of this stuff. By the way, without getting sleep, I feel like fucked up. Like drunk or high a little bit, you know? No sleep makes you feel like this. So this episode might be a little goofy, but
I don't feel like I'm here.
No disrespect to the people who perished living that lifestyle.
No disrespect to those emos.
Living that lifestyle. Look.
Wait, emos don't go like that, do they?
No, it's like the surfer dudes. I didn't know what to do. I'm not emo. Or am I?
Aaron wanted to come over here with black eyeliner.
Eyeliner and then slick over my hair, but I'm like, that'd be pretty like distasteful. So I decided not to.
Well, by the end of this, you looking emo, that might mean something else.
It's slowly like we pause and I slowly do a line throughout the episode and my eyes start I slowly start turning hilarious. Emo. Oh my God. All right. Anyways. So like I previously mentioned, we're first going to start off today's episode talking about what is emo. Specifically the emo culture, because they're two different things.
Yeah. Because you got like the music genre, then you got the actual culture of it.
Yeah, the emo music genre, and then the culture, emo culture. So Dan, tell us about that.
All right. So what is emo subculture or culture? And this is something, honestly, I thought I would never have to try to like explain. So it was very weird to actually read about it, but then it was interesting. Now, emo culture was a youth subculture that was rooted in music, fashion, and shared a deep connection emotionally within the community in the west side of the world. I mean, starting out. And we're not just talking about being depressed. That's the only emotion, though. Supposedly, depression had nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
we're just emotional.
Yeah. Now, the emo culture evolved alongside the music genre of emo, but the culture itself would take off on its own in the 2000s, which had the elements of punk, goth, and indie aesthetics.
So the roots of emo culture, of course, starts with music, like we said, but not where you would think it would. Well, for some at least. It started back in the 1980s when Washington, D.C.'s hardcore punk music scene started to take a different path. You had the bands like Rites of Spring. They ended up fusing raw punk energy with introspective and more use of so-called vulnerable lyrics. Ugh. Basically, they went against like the traditional fashion trends and decided to use more emotional lyrics. I guess it really wouldn't be fashion trend. It'd be music trend. Because fashion trend, they'd be wearing skinny jeans.
Oh, yeah.
So they went against fashion and the music.
They got tired of the whole, I think it was like the bob haircut, the white shirt, the khaki pants. They're just like, we're switching it up completely.
Sick.
So yeah, skinny jeans. This in turn created a new genre known as emotional hardcore, and then that was actually shortened to emo, which I never knew that.
Neither did
I just thought it was just emo. Then after that, it actually continued into the 90s, and subgenres started to break off from emotional hardcore, like Midwest emo or screamo, which would develop later on into into pop punk in the late 90s with bands like Green Day and Jimmy Eat World.
By this time, in the 90s, the term emo was used for many different bands across the spectrum that had many different styles, expanding the label, but there was a negative connotation with it. This led to many bands trying to get away from that label or denouncing the label altogether.
Then by the 2000s, emo was now a term solely categorizing music, and it grew from music to an entire subculture fueled by platforms like MySpace and LiveJournal.
The fuck is LiveJournal?
You didn't know what LiveJournal was?
No, I've never even heard of that before.
I've used it like once, but everybody I knew like in school used it.
I must be from a different universe.
Honestly, it wasn't really that popular, but a lot of people I knew in school used it.
I remember it's 2005 or 6, 2006 or 5, one of those.
Junior, senior
I was
year?
a senior in high school, just got out of geometry class because I was a dumbass and failed Algebra 1 my freshman year. Anyway, so I was a senior, and one of my friends, Caleb Poole, an African-American gentleman, I was faster than him, by the way. Not that it means anything. He ran track. But he came up to me. He's like, hey, man, have you heard of Facebook? I was like, fuck no, I haven't. I'm all about MySpace, dog. And he's like, Facebook is where it's at. And I'm like, no. Lo and behold, he was right. Good job, Caleb Poole. I think you're locked up now. Pretty sure, because last time I checked, you had like 22 warrants or something in Waco. So.
Oh, shit.
Ugh.
Yeah, I remember when Facebook like started popping up. I mean, MySpace was so cool. You could do the whole background. You could pick your top,
Friends.
was it like 8 or something like that?
Yeah, top 8 friends.
Then you have your like profile song and such. And then
Yeah.
Facebook was just this plain looking, looked like Thread, like Reddit kind of almost, in my opinion.
Did you just say thread?
Yeah, Threads.
Oh, yeah, it did. Bland.
Very bland. But yeah, those platforms, MySpace and LiveJournal and eventually Facebook, allowed emo fans to connect over, sharing feelings of alienation, heartbreak, and identity struggles.
No one gets me, Dad.
Oh, she broke my heart again.
So the fashion flair of the subculture of emo started to rise. You had skinny jeans, band t-shirts, hoodies, studded belts, and the infamous Converses or Vans shoes, as well as the chokers sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And the combed over hair that was dyed black, the heavy eyeliner, the black nail polish, the fake scars that people would make on their wrist, the
Fingerless gloves.
fingerless gloves, the Hello Kitty everywhere,
Hello Kitty with the bandage.
just fucking everywhere. So those skinny jeans, and some of those had the baggy pants, of course, with those straps going from one side to the other that dangle, kind of like I think those were suspenders some of them were suspenders, and then some of them were just fucking straps.
It's very weird.
Hey man, I don't judge. You want to wear suspenders and hang down, go ahead. Cool, dude. But if something happens, you're not going to be able to run away really fast.
My dad wore suspenders, but he actually wore them the right way.
He didn't wear them like that.
No. But yeah, here's a picture of, not a very good picture, but it's a picture of skinny jeans with straps.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually called bondage pants.
That sounds like some sexual stuff.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. But unfortunately, if you'd looked it up, you would find the wrong stuff. Mistakes happen. Anyways, moving on.
That's why you were up all night.
I was scarred. But yeah, of course, you had the whole black hair dyed with like bold streaks of blue or red. I did see some with white streaks. But they would have symbols. I mean, I guess I want to say symbols, but they would have like pins and stuff that had like skulls, broken hearts, like the Hello Kitty with the bandages.
Pins? What are you talking about?
They always wore something with like skulls, like even like on the gloves, they were like skulls on it.
Oh, yeah.
It was like always, that was like one of their symbols is like, you see someone wearing skulls and stuff. Oh, they're emo.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd see those teenagers dress up with black hair, eyeliner, and this style of fashion and would immediately think, oh, they're depressed as fuck. Which, not always, but some were. We can't, deny that. But the subculture focused on emotional authenticity and a rejection of the norm of masculinity. I guess that's why the skinny jeans came in.
Thought it was more so the rejection of the norm, of the squares, of the people, just in general. They didn't want to be like anyone else.
It could be that.
Okay.
Masculinity, norm, square. It was a rejection of the most stuff.
Yeah. But like we said, their music and poetry, which none of the motherfuckers at my school were doing poetry. They were listening to music though. It was focused on loneliness, heartbreak, mental health, and anxiety and insecurities, stuff like that. And it would be a little group of these people, and they would all bond over these feelings and create safe spaces online, areas where they could freely express themselves without being judged and say, my father doesn't get me. Daddy never loved me. That's what they can say. I'm sure, hey, all you fucking listeners know what we're talking about, okay? Yeah. As long as I don't even know if in school nowadays they have emo groups or not. I know back in 06, Pick Up Sticks.
It's coming back.
Oh, shit.
Supposedly it's coming back. TikTok's to blame. They're bringing it back.
But yeah.
Now, the emo subculture, like we said earlier, had a negative meaning, and a lot of that did come from the media saying that they were depressed, they're self-harming themselves, or the most popular phrase is, it's a phase, or it's not a phase, but they said it was a phase. And not all of that was true, but like I said, can't ignore the ones that were actually depressed and self-harming, because there were those ones.
Yeah, and with all of this negative connotation surrounding it, the emo subculture still remains a powerful form of self-expression for outsiders, blending music, fashion, and raw emotion into a community that thrives on being authentic and different from everyone else. And there you have it. That is a very long explanation of what emo subculture is. But you are all filled in. Okay, and this is where
I got excited about. I was like excited about reading this.
I can tell, and this is where we jump over to where this subculture made its way over to
Iraq,
and over there to like the Middle East and the East in general, from the West to the East. So start that off for us, Dan.
Before I get into that, you said there were like no emos in your school at all?
No, I said there were.
Oh, there were?
Yeah.
Did you ever notice, like, one school year, this person was, like, just totally normal, and then the next year, they were completely emo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, there was one, I was friends with a guy named Barry, redheaded kid, totally a nerd, my type of people, and that was freshman year. Sophomore year, he comes in, hair dyed black, heavy eyeliner, wearing all these chains, skulls, and straps and all that. And I'm like, the hell happened to you?
Hey, we had that with a kid named, I'm trying to think of his name. He was like a fucking, it's one of those religions that don't celebrate anything. I don't know. Jehovah's Witness. Latter-day Saints. I don't know. One of those people that walk around out and say, hey, have you heard of
Jehovah's?
Jehovah's or the other ones? I don't know. Can't think of the name right. Mormons. Yeah. Either one of those. Doesn't celebrate. I don't know which one off the top of my head right now. But his name was Matthew something. He didn't change it up each year. He changed it up each day. He would come to school one day dressed as emo, and the next day he'd just come dressed up like he just got off the farm. Switched it up, you know?
Ran out of makeup.
He's like, yeah. I'm like, cool, respect that, man.
No, but this Barry kid, like, when he came back, like, the next year, completely emo, I don't know, I guess since it was, like, in style now, he became very popular.
Did you beat his ass?
No.
Oh. I always had a crush. I was always attracted to the emo girls.
I know.
Tattoos. Sick. Emo.
Band t-shirts. We know about those.
My weakness.
All right. So the emo subculture was big in the 2000s on the western side of the globe or world map, flat map.
Flat map?
Whatever people want to believe.
Hot dog map, Dan.
Hot dog map. I believe in eggshell or like an egg.
Eggshell?
Yeah.
I believe in the eggshell earth.
Eggshell earth.
I like to crack it and look at the yolk.
I mean, that's what I think it's like.
I've been using the fuck out of your egg cooker.
Dude, that thing's badass.
You
right?
left it over my house. I cooked about 4 eggs the other night at like 4 a.m. Perfectly creamy middle.
Use the measuring cup?
Uh-huh.
You pop the hole in the top?
Nope. No, I don't pop the hole in the top. I watched some videos. They were like, don't pop a hole in the top.
Really?
Yeah. I tested it. Try not popping a hole in the top.
I will once I get it back.
You ain't getting it back. Anyway, okay, sorry.
But anyway, when did emo subculture, become popular in Iraq? Well, it started to become popular in the mid-2000s with Iraqi youth having access to the internet and stumbling upon emo music, fashion, and aesthetics through the popular platforms of MySpace, YouTube, and later on, Facebook.
Yeah, we can't forget about the television, though, because there was MTV, and that was huge at the time, and they actually played music videos.
I would have that on all night.
Yep. And with those little Iraqi, most of the time orphans, that had access to them. Well, I mean, it's a majority of them, okay? Operation Iraqi Freedom started in 2003, Dan.
I was thinking of the actual coalition name.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2003.
Yeah. So you had all these kids watching MTV, and teens in the urban areas like Baghdad, Basra, and others began adopting this emo subculture lifestyle. They saw it on TV and they're like, fuck yeah, dude. Sick. Daddy's gone. Let's rock out.
Oh, God, Daddy's gone.
Well,
I mean, it's true. But, I mean, yeah, it was a way for them to express themselves and kind of like, I don't know what else. Yeah, it's just a way to express themselves. So teens started to dye their hair, wear band t-shirts, skinny jeans, which in their own way was a form of rebellion or self-expression. Now, the subculture resonated with many of the teens who struggled emotionally with the current events, like the war happening, displacement, or societal repression, which there was a lot of that over there, especially during this time.
Unfortunately, though, even if the teens were using this subculture as a way to self-express themselves, it didn't really work that way in Iraq at the time, or Iraq at the time. In fact, it was faced with extreme hostility due to the association with Western decadence and Satanism by certain groups. So but individuals over there, the older ones, saw these teens becoming emo, right? Dressing weird, putting eyeliner on. They're like, what the fuck? And a lot of them kind of like lashed out at them.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Also in Iraq, in parts of Baghdad, the emo aesthetic was usually associated with homosexuality as well as Satanism, which homosexuality was not legal and was not accepted at all. At Iraq.
Yeah.
Iraq. And looking back at their history of LGBTQ plus rights. I think that's right. It hasn't been an easy road, if you want to say there was even a road at all. They had it rough over the years and still do, and we kind of go into that a little bit later on because it does actually play a factor in all of this.
Yeah, so get in the back of the bus, you gays. We'll talk about you later. So let's move on, though. With the emo subculture rising in Iraq, however you pronounce it.
Iraq.
You better not cut that. It definitely ruffled some feathers, which leads us to 2011. In August of 2011, a memo would be sent out to schools by the Iraqi government describing emo as a, and we quote, phenomenon infiltrating all society, and proceeded to recommend stopping the fashion before it could spread even more. Better stop those emos.
And this was the government.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it gets even crazier.
This memo would also ban the use of camera phones, in quotes, because students would use it for dirty movies.
As in they would use the cameras to film themselves making dirty movies, or they would download dirty movies?
Probably both.
Huh. Sick.
Yeah.
As in gross.
Yeah, gross. Then it prohibited students from leaving classes during school hours, in quotations, for any reason because they might gather in nearby cafes or coffee shops to practice dirty activities.
Oh, okay. So that right there is a key giveaway. Practice dirty activities, meaning that the camera phones
They would
use it for dirty movies, meaning that they would receive the dirty movies on the camera phones, and then they would practice these dirty activities in cafes and coffee shops. Odd locations to be practicing sexual stuff at, but
yeah.
I don't judge.
Usually people will just stare at you the whole time.
You're going to catch a case.
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to work on your laptop and people just staring at you because you're actually doing work. Last time I went to a coffee shop.
All right. So following that weird-ass memo that was sent out by the government, months would continue to go on by, and by February of 2012, the Baghdad Moral Police, yes, the Moral Police issued a public statement on the Iraqi Interior Ministry website. This statement disapproved of Iraqi teenagers who dress in the emo style. It's like, you think you would have more pressing concerns? You have another country invading you right now. Who cares about emos? Actually, this 2012, that's over with. The country done came bombed. They still get little trinkles every now and then. Oh, well. So the chief of the Iraqi Ministry Moral Police, Colonel Mustafa Talib al-Mohammadid, was quoted saying, and we quote,
"The emo phenomenon, or devil worshipping, is being followed by the moral police who have the approval to eliminate the phenomenon as soon as possible since it's detrimentally affecting the society and becoming a danger. The emo phenomenon was discovered a while back by members of our force in Baghdad.
A report has been made and given to the Ministry of Interior to receive an approval to carry on with the investigation and to know how to eliminate this phenomenon. The Ministry of Interior took the situation very seriously and received an approval from the Ministry of Education to set a plan under my full supervision and to allow us to enter schools in the capital.
There are some cases of the spread of this phenomenon specifically among schools in Baghdad, but we are facing great difficulty in the lack of women on the force who would allow us to carry the investigation more accurately since the phenomenon is more popular among girls between the ages of 14 and 18.
They wear strange, tight clothes that have pictures on them, such as skulls, and use stationaries that are shaped like skulls. They also wear rings on their noses and tongues and do other strange activities." End quote. That's a real memo.
That's a real memo.
God damn.
Then 2 weeks after that statement was made by the chief of moral police, a second statement was released that reiterated the targeting of certain stores that were selling emo clothing, especially one store in the Kadamia neighborhood. This is where they identified one shop that they knew were selling emo clothing and accessories to teenagers.
After that, the Iraqi Moral Police were then granted even more power by the Ministry of Education. They were told, do whatever the fuck you want to do. So they began to enter Baghdad schools and pinpoint students who had been dressing in Western attire. One of the moral police officers made a statement saying that some students had been recently arrested because they were wearing American jeans or they had Western haircuts.
What's really a Western? I mean, I guess the emo hairstyle, but
Yeah.
And during this time, rumors started to spread around about people that dressed emo, that they were all Satan worshipers and were making sacrifices to the devil and drinking each other's blood.
So, man, first of all, you had all of these like things attached to this emo culture in Iraq. You had people who believed that these people, who dressed in emo were either Satan worshipers, they were
Homosexuals.
You gay. What was the other one?
I mean, Satan worshipers,
Gay
homosexuals,
and
drinking each other's blood,
yeah,
depressed,
and supported America. So, I mean, fuck. Some of them believed all three. So that's bad. You're putting a big target on your back if you went over there and dressed like that.
Oh, yeah.
We got a time machine. We go back there and dress emo. Oh, my God. We get killed immediately.
We would, and from the sounds of it, it's not going to be very pleasant.
All right. So following that, posters and flyers began to be passed around at a nearby city. And they were also hung up, too. And this flyer was of 2 handguns pointed inward. And it had a Quranic greeting on it that pretty much praised God as merciful and compassionate. And that was at the very top of it. And under it, so it had guns. God is merciful, and compassionate. 2 guns. And then at the bottom, it had listed over 20 specific names of people in that neighborhood of that city. And it included their addresses, which all but one of the people that were listed were men. So it contradicts what the police were saying, like, oh, they're mostly 14 to 18-year-old women. Wrong.
Now, the most chilling part was the warning that came after the list of names and the 2 guns on it. And it said, and we quote, "We warn in the strongest terms to every male and female debauchee, if you do not stop this dirty act within 4 days, then the punishment of God will fall on you at the hands of Mujahideen. I believe that's how it's said." And end quote. And here is a image of that flyer or poster.
The numbers next to it, how old these people were.
That I have no idea.
77-year-old. I think that's the address, like the number of the address of the apartment building.
Well, there's a lot of them in 33.
Got a lot of gay emo people in apartment 33. Watch out now. So anyways, this warning was frightening, but it wasn't the last one, because another leaflet was passed around with around 20 names on it as well. And it had a message on it that said, "We are the brigades." What the fuck? Brigades?
Brigades of anger.
"We are the brigades of anger. We warn you, if you do not get back to sanity and the right path, you will be killed." And here's that list. What you put down there, it definitely looks like more than 20. That is definitely more than 20.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, yeah, it's around 50.
This leaflet also had the names of over 50 names, and it actually had like their address. So it's like, hey, we know who you are. If you don't change your ways, you will be killed, which is fucked up.
So pretty much the same as the other one as well.
Yeah.
Damn.
But I think the second one was actually claimed by the Brigades of Anger. The other one is the Mujahideen, which is another group. So 2 different groups, extremist groups, doing this. Now, by March of 2012, those warnings were no longer warnings. They had been carried out. Supposedly. The media in Iraq were quoted stating that at this point, 56 murders had been committed, and this was told by an official source.
Now, that number could be debated with the different numbers from different sources out there being released. Everybody was saying different numbers. The Interior Ministry put the official death toll due to emo target murders at only 6.
Only 6. Then the numbers started popping up from different media sources. You have Reuters news agency reported that the number was at 14 after investigating hospitals and security officials. Then Brussels Tribunal had the murder count to be closer to 100.
The Associated Press claimed an unnamed official at the ministry admitted to 58, with all of them being male except one. United Nations official sites state there were 14 deaths, but believes there were many more. Lebanon-based news outlet Al Akhbar Daily put the count around 90.
And then the gay Iraqi activist Ali Hili claimed that from 2006 to 2012, there were 750 murders of homosexual individuals. Then Agence France Presse reported medical officials said at least 15 have already been killed in the past month, including 7 who were stoned to death, 5 who were shot, and 1 who was beaten to death. And out of all of the deaths, though, only 2 were female.
So those were the numbers being released. And what was crazy was that right before these numbers were released, a spokesperson for the Iraqi ministry said, and we quote,
"No emos have been killed in Iraq. There were just 1 gay man killed in the last 2 months, and our investigations revealed that criminal motives were behind his killing. The reported killings? They were all fabricated, false reports by certain biased elements. If any young people or teenagers were killed, how come news about their deaths hasn't spread among friends, at schools or colleges or in their neighborhoods? Our investigators go everywhere and find nothing."
End quote.
End quote.
Yeah. And man, the death toll was all over the place. Huh?
It was like none of it was like truly verified, but people were dying, being killed. It's just no one knew exactly how much or how many.
So following that, there was an interview with a musician who told the International Rights Group that on March 8th, 2 of his heavy metal band members were killed in the street just because of how they looked. Then another young man who supposedly escaped from a group of armed religious extremists that were dressed in civilian clothing had led dozens of teenagers into a remote area where they were then stoned to death.
He, the escapee, described the death by blocking, and we quote, that they first throw concrete blocks at the boy's arms, then at his legs, then the final blow is to his head. And if he is not dead, then they start all over again. End quote.
That's fucked up.
They used the cement block.
So the most, like when people talk about, hey, is there any photographic evidence? The number one photographic proof of these killings, like, hey, they were killing emo people in Iraq in 2012. The most looked at photograph is the one of Safi Ashmar. I think I pronounced his name right. If I didn't,
it's Saif Asbar.
Yeah. He was found bludgeoned to death on the afternoon of February 17th, 2012. And viewer discretion is advised. This is a little brutal.
Gruesome.
There you go. There's a photo of him. He's looking like Aziz. And there's a photo of him just laying in the back of a truck, supposedly stoned to death. Not in the good way either.
No. And then there is another photograph of another victim that was reported to be killed for being emo. And like I said, viewer discretion. Here's a photo of, on the left is him dressed as emo, and then on the right is when they found him.
Yeah.
Which I have doubts about that picture.
So that right there is the 2012 emo killings in Iraq. And we pretty much went over what is emo, the emo subculture, how it went into Iraq, how it spread, how the people over there viewed it, and then the reports of the deaths of the individuals and how they were all over the place, and then the only proof that was found. And that pretty much sums up what the killings were. But the episode doesn't stop here, because now we get into the strange facts and findings that were discovered while researching this topic. So why don't you kick it off for us, Dan, since you're an expert on this first strange fact and finding.
I hate you.
Gays in the back of the bus, go right up to the bus. We're talking about you now.
All right, so our first strange fact and finding is about the history of LGBT in Iraq. So Just going back to 1969 for a quick history lesson. The Criminal Code of 1969 was enacted by the Ba'athist Party, which only criminalized sexual behavior in the cases consisting of adultery, incest, rape, prostitution, public acts, or cases involving fraud or someone unable to give consent due to age or mental defect.
Now, going by that code of 1969, nice. Homosexuality was not a crime, but authorities could justify things saying that under laws designed to protect national security and public morality, they had to do what they needed to. This meant that from 1969 to 2001, the Iraqi government had a lot of playroom with the law. They could harass, jail, or even execute anyone that they deemed to be a threat to national security or public morality.
Fucked up. So the LGBT people in Iraq could be harassed, jailed, or blackmailed into becoming spies for the regime, or else they would be heavily punished, as in jailed or executed. Then in 1986, when Iraq had the AIDS HIV pandemic, Saddam Hussein, who was a dumbass, thought the AIDS and HIV could be spread by casual contact.
I mean,
in a certain way.
So that was common. Like, not just he thought that. You know who he got that from? Fauci. He got it from Fauci. Fauci was the first one who mentioned that. And then he corrected himself.
But
anyway,
Fauci did, or I guess, I don't know if the U.S. did this. Who knows? It might be.
All right. So Saddam Hussein ordered all Iraqis with the disease to be relocated to a special prison facility. And since they obviously didn't know much about it, as in they didn't know much about HIV and AIDS, they even imprisoned people with hemophilia, the condition where your blood doesn't clot to help slow down or stop the bleeding, which is totally different. They didn't care. Throw them in with HIV and AIDS, people. You can't stop bleeding, you got AIDS.
That's terrible.
That is. Not as bad as what, what's that one company who took the vaccines that were tainted with AIDS and HIV and gave it to people in Africa still?
Oh, that's the Microsoft guy.
Gates? Yeah, it wasn't Gates. It was a company.
But he was part of it.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll come to me. It always does.
Then in 2001, the Iraqi Revolutionary Command Council Resolution 234 of 2001 was enacted, which established the death penalty for adultery, prostitution, or being involved with, and anyone who commits the crime of sodomy with a male or female, or who violates the honor of a male or female without his or her consent with the use of threats of arm or by force.
God dang, you're going to get killed.
You just straight up just murdered.
Damn. And everybody's a little gay, so fuck. Then, with the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq, the chief executive of the Coalition Provisional Authority took control of Iraq. He issued a series of decrees that restored the Iraqi criminal code back to the Iraq Penal Code of 1969, which then abolished the death penalty and removed most restrictions on free speech and assembly.
I mean, that was pretty good, but it went back to pretty much the way it was. Of the law had a lot of playroom to for public morality. So even that, with that being brought back, large waves of harassment and violence against the LGBT people came from family members and other Iraqis who felt the need to punish people for violating traditional Islamic laws, which were pretty brutal in how they punished them. So yeah, that was the history of the LGBT in Iraq, which it doesn't sound like it plays a part, but it really does, considering they put emos and the LGBT people in like the same group. So a lot of the deaths were people of the LGBT community.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, but they wouldn't say that though.
All right, so let's go on to our next strange fact and finding, which is about other countries that also went through this so-called emo panic. So the first country we're going to talk about is Saudi Arabia. In 2010, Saudi Arabia arrested emo girls for imitating men.
I think it was like 20 of them. Which,
what did they do?
Only thing I could think of is that
You want to see this dick?
they probably wore skinny jeans, band t-shirts, and had that same hairstyle, since a lot of emos actually looked the same because they all had the same hairstyle and all that. So
Yeah.
they probably went that way. Then in 2012 in Indonesia, there was a province that was governed by Sharia law. A group of young punks were arrested, had their heads shaved, and then were sent to be re-educated. So pretty much they had the hairstyle, and then they're just like, nope, not having that. Shave their head, and then they sent them off to a
Re-education camp.
Yeah.
Also known as a modern-day Holocaust camp.
Oh.
So the next place we're going to talk about is the Mexican emo wars. So as emo became known by the mainstream, it started to receive backlash. Anti-emo groups attacked teenagers in Mexico City, Querétaro, and Tijuana. In 2008, this occurred. And NPR, which is a popular reporting thingy, they called this the Mexican emo wars.
That must have been a really big deal if it was got that name. And then in Russia, legislation was proposed in Russia's Duma regulating emo websites and banning emo attire in schools and government buildings, with the subculture perceived as a dangerous teen trend, promoting antisocial behavior, depression, social withdrawal, and suicide.
Damn. Well,
it's all those negative connotations.
Yep. And it keeps on getting negative, because this next strange fact and finding is about killings that happened in 2009 by extremists in Iraq. So in 2009, there was a string of killings that was based on sexuality by religious extremist militias. Now, their methods were extremely cruel, in which they would start by motherfucker. Hold on. So you had this religious extremist group in 2009 that kidnapped gay people.
Yep.
Gay people. And they would torture them. And what they would do is that they would start off by gluing the anus of the victim shut and then giving them diuretics, causing them to have diarrhea, which they were unable to pass, and then died as a result. Diuretics made them piss too. So probably laxative and diuretics.
It had to be laxative, because I thought diuretics just
blew their pee hole shut.
Oh.
Yeah, that is fucked up, dude.
That's honestly really terrible.
That's like some, what's
Centipede.
that movie? Centipede, yeah. Damn.
Ugh. Moving on. This next strange fact and finding is about an interview done in Baghdad. So BBC released an investigative report by Natalia Antilava while in Baghdad. She interviewed 17 homosexual men, all of whom had lost partners and friends to this wave of violence, with many more dropping out of their interviews at the last minute.
She also interviewed 14 former moral police officers who corroborated consistently that gay men were being targeted, arrested for being gay, not illegal in Iraq according to the written law, meaning that they could be tortured and killed. At least two of the individuals, one a gay man and the other a transsexual woman. Is that a man turned to a woman or a woman turned to a man?
Think man to a woman?
Yeah, that would be right. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I'm not knowledgeable in this. Okay. So those two individuals told the reporter that they had been raped at government checkpoints for being gay/trans. Wouldn't that make the rapers gay? I don't know. Comment down below and let us know.
Yeah, the trans woman described her worst experience at a checkpoint where she was forced to put her hands on. I don't even want to read that.
You don't even got to read that. That's too much.
They made the woman do a lot of bad things, or she was gonna get tortured and killed. Which
she was already tortured.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Why are people messed up? The world may never know. Just be kind to one another. You know, to love one another. So what if a dude likes to suck a penis, you know, or is attracted to another man?
So what if he likes a cock meat sandwich?
Yeah. So what if a girl likes to
clam slam other clams?
Clam slam, likes to lick on the carpet muncher. You know, you love who you want to love.
So what if she becomes a professional rug cleaner?
Lit liquor, cootie queen.
You cootie queen.
Just save some of that cootie for some of us. Dang.
You mother liquor.
You better leave this in.
No,
you leave this in.
Oh no. That's good. I might leave some of it in.
All right. So that right there was that strange fact and finding. Let's go on to our next one. So this next strange fact and finding is about the photo of the young man in a white jacket. The one we looked at earlier. Was the first one or second one?
The first one.
First one. Okay. The one where he's laying in a truck. Obviously, it's pretty gruesome and upsetting. But on a site, we ended up finding the site owner that said that he was talking to two of his Iraqi friends who were telling him about the killings in Iraq. One friend sent the picture with the guy in the white jacket and laying in the truck bed to him. So that's how we got it.
Then the other friend sent him pictures and wrote to him saying, and we quote, "Now they're using blocks or rocks or hammers in the killing of young people, and all kinds of bad people are to be killed on the pretext that we are servants of Satan. Blood militias run free every day and kill the flower of youth, all of whom are innocent of the charges that tarnish their image."
I don't know what to say because I'm afraid and scared, and now I'm mentally ill because of the fear. And they even control mobile devices now and external and internal checkpoints on the surrounding roads and city streets. They are collaborating with the militias for the fear of the flight of young people from Iraq or from Baghdad. I appeal to the humanity in you. End quote.
Controlling mobile devices.
They got phones.
Would that be like restricting like the internet and
I think so, yeah.
Mm.
Kind of like how Texas is doing with porn sites. You can't go to porn sites anymore. And if you live in Texas and you try to go to like Pornhub or like what other porn sites, I don't watch porn, but it's bad for your health, bad for your brain. But if you tried to go to it, you can't go to it.
You can get addicted.
You can. But you can't go to it if you live in Texas because the lawmakers have banned it now. You have to like log in or some bullshit. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some like weird verification process you have to go through. I don't know. From what I hear, what I read on Reddit. Anyways, now, what is confusing about this strange fact and finding is the friend that sent the picture of the guy in the white jacket and the body in the truck bed. But the second friend ended up sending the same photograph of the body in the truck bed, but said it was a different guy. And we have that picture.
Ooh, this was worse.
Right here, which is the same truck bed and all that, but it's now a different person that was killed. So it's like kind of confusing on whether or not they know who actually was killed.
Yeah.
And these people are in Iraq.
Damn. All right. So that right there is our last strange fact and finding, which leads us into theories. We're going to start discussing the possibilities around this entire event or events. And the first theory is called extremist religious groups. So there are 4 groups that seem to have been associated with these extreme torture and killings of the emo/gay people / Satan worshipers. The first one is the Shiite fundamentalists paramilitary groups, which the Shia cleric condoned the killings and called them an act of terrorism. The second group was the Mahdi army, which was led by the radical cleric al-Shadir as a suspected group. And on March 10th, this claim was denied by the cleric who said emos are crazy and fools and a lesion on the Muslim community, but also said to end the scourge of emo within the law. So he wasn't out there saying, hey, go kill these people. He was just like, hey, they're crazy, they're fools, but
the law will handle them.
The law, yeah. This meant that the 1969 law for national security and morality is what he was mentioning, right? Now, the third group was the League of Righteous, which has also been identified as another extremist military or militia group that was involved. And then the fourth group would be the Brigades of Anger, which they were responsible for the flyers threatening the emo teens. So everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people point to them as being like, hey, they're the ones who killed the gay emo people.
Yeah, they were taking it to the extreme. But I don't know, you think they were the ones going inside school supposedly and pulling kids out?
No, that was the government.
which that is the next theory. This goes off claims that in 2007, the Iraqi LGBT claimed Iraqi political and religious organizations put forth a concerted effort in the systematic murder of all gay persons. The Iraqi government broke into the homes of known gay individuals or snatched them off the street, forced them to give the names of other LGBT community members by means of torture, and then officially arrested these people and handed them over to the paramilitary group for further infliction of abuse and to be murdered.
That's how they got the separation from them. They would snag them and then hand them over to these groups so the groups could take care of them illegally, so they'd wash their hands of it.
That's why you would say, like, the Iraqi government only said 6 official deaths.
Ah.
Now, there were unidentified sources for London-based Iraqi LGBT, many of which were targeted by name and are now dead, and within Iraq confirmed that the Ministry of the Interior was working with these militia groups for the purpose of eradicating the LGBT community in the capital of Baghdad and Iraq as a whole. So there was a whistleblower in there saying, hey, the government, they're working with these extremist militia groups to get rid of the LGBT community in Iraq and Baghdad. And of course, take them out of school, get them off the streets, and then handing them over after they get more names to the militias, and the militias take them out.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about our next theory, which is called American government. In this theory, it states that in 2003, the United States led the invasion into Iraq, and it brought the Islamic Dawa,
I think that's how it is actually said.
Dawa party to power. This party's views are derived from the ultra-conservative beliefs of Shia clerics, and before this party took a prominent position in the Iraqi governing body, people in the LGBT community were generally left alone and had a fair degree of freedom, supposedly. Now, after this party came to power in 2003, it became, and we quote, hell on earth for anyone who wasn't strictly heterosexual, and led to coordinated hunting and torture/murder for anyone who was a part of the LGBT community, specifically targeting gay men. They would sew their anuses shut or glue their anuses shut. The Iraqi government would start handing over anyone arrested to the militias to be taken care of. So this is pretty much the same as the above one.
Yeah, it's just that the American government, the U.S. was the
one who kicked it off.
So they were the ones to blame.
Okay.
Which could be. Who knows? This next theory is called social hysteria. As dumb as it sounds. This theory is that the killings were partly fueled by rumors and misinformation. Stories of emos being Satanists or engaged in occult rituals spread via social media and word of mouth and on TV, the media itself, which created a climate of fear that made it seem like it was actually happening.
But why?
This theory goes off just the fact that all those different numbers of emos being killed. This theory went off of there was a Al Jazeera interview that was on YouTube that I watched. And the lady on there said that it was mostly homosexuals that they were killing, and the Iraqi government didn't want to have issues with the neighboring countries that protected the LGBT community. So instead of saying, oh, they're killing homosexuals, it went to, oh, they're emos. We got to stop this trend. It's spreading too far. It's destroying our public morale, destroying our traditions. So pretty much it went to, oh, they're killing all the emos here, and teens were starting to, they were, and that's where it gets weird. They were killing homosexuals. The hysteria is they weren't actually killing emos. People dressing up like that, because they actually had the freedom to dress the way they want and all that.
So what's your personal thoughts on it, since we're shifting over to that?
Oh,
do you think that it was all just made up? Do you think they really did it? Why did they do it, and who did it?
I do believe there was a string of mass killings Was it against emos? Not really. I don't see there's enough, unless the Iraqi government, which they probably are, hiding a lot of the information. Because if you look it up, there's really not a lot of information on, or verified information about how many people or teens were killed because they were emos and all that. Like all the numbers from all the different websites and news reports, they all vary, and it's all by word of mouth. And then, of course, the one that throws me off is where the two Iraqi friends sent pictures as one guy. They both used the same photo of the deceased body, but they were two different people, supposedly. And it's just like, y'all live there, like, you're saying that you're fearing for your life, but you don't even know the, like, real facts either. So it's like, it makes me question the emo killings, but not the killings of the LGBT community.
Okay.
I mean, part of it's real, part of it's questionable, in my opinion.
I think it's all real. I think they're out there, you're emo, you're Satanist, you're gay. We're going to kill you all. They just gathered them up. The government did over there. They were just gathering them up and then handing them over to militias. And the militias would pop, 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 pop. Or just like glue, 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 glue. You know?
Oh, gosh.
Or they would. I'm not trying to make light of it, but I seriously believe that's what was happening. And then I think this whole like, hey, what about the people sharing the photo or whatever? That's part of all the government right there, swaying people to say, creating like disbelief in what was really going on. You put in these actors, these people who say, oh, no, my friend was over there. And then they share something to discredit their story. So then you're like, oh, maybe it's not really happening. It's all blown off.
It was the Iraqi government that was saying like the emo people were Satan worshipers. And then the media went off with that. And then that's what everyone started believing is like, oh, they're Satan worshipers. They're leaving school to go drink each other's blood in cafes or coffee shops.
Yeah, but I mean like the photos that were shared. Those were really, that was a government thing.
But that right there, that photo, or the one of the back of the truck, and then the one earlier, which I don't think it's that same guy. I think it's a different person. Because if you look at the hair, the hairstyle is totally different. The one on the right body, he has a little man bun.
Yeah. I'm not saying that didn't happen.
No, yeah, I'm
saying that happened. I'm just saying like the where the confusion, that's all the government creating the confusion right there. So people then kind of question, well, is this really happening or did this really happen? Because they're covering it up. They don't want you to know that they're going out, taking out these gays. Nothing wrong with being gay. No, they don't want, they're trying to cover it up.
I mean, they are trying to cover it up, but I just don't think it's like, if anything, granted, they did say that people that dressed as emo or practiced the subculture, they were homosexuals or Satan worshipers. So technically, they would kill people that were dressed as emos. But I think the whole like emo killing spree was literally just of homosexuals. It's just these ones just dressed the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
It was
just a label. Everybody got it. Listen, you dressed emo, you're going to be labeled as gay and killed.
I mean, you're
gay, you're going to be killed.
Iraq is predominantly a Islamic religion country.
Sharia law, yeah.
And if you think about it, people, some are,
it's hard to
work around this, but there are homosexuals of that religion, but it's more so of like, if they don't openly show it or come out and say it, they're not really bothered. Like, cause no one really knows and no one cares. But when you start to come out and show it and all that stuff, that's when things get a little hectic, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the whole dressing as emo with the hairstyle and the clothes and all that set it off even more, we could say.
So I guess the main question is, we can conclude or come to the conclusion that the government did do the killings.
Oh yeah, the government definitely did.
They had a hand in it, at least, handing the people over to the militia. At least they had a hand in it. Now, which takes us to the next thing. Were they trying to cover it up? Yes.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So that's the conclusion we could come to.
Only 6 total deaths when supposedly there's way more. And there's proof of it like way back starting before that of like the treatment of the LGBT community and all that. Like it's pretty bad. And it's like Iraq was trying to protect its image, and then they wanted to protect it even more by lying and covering it up.
Yeah. Anyways, if you or a loved one are gay or emo or satanic, or all three, or two of three, or whatever, comment down below and let us know. Peace be upon you. But with that being said, do you have anything else you would like to add to today's episode?
No, I mean, it was an interesting topic to cover. It was hard finding verified information, but I did find most of what I could. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. Most of it was definitely interesting, the history of emo subculture.
Yeah. That right there is our premium episode over the 2012 Emo Killings. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
That's right.
With that being said, I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. I love you, and I am proud of you.
Much love.
So that being said, Dan, would you like to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.
It's a phase.